I want to talk to you guys about autism. Someone requested me to talk about something a little bit more in-depth video about ASD. So let's just get started. So I was recently diagnosed with SAD several months ago, probably about 6 months ago. I might be completely wrong. It could have been 3, it could have been 8. I have horrible time, so I have horrible good time. So a lot of people don't feel that there is a such thing as a high-functioning autistic person. They think that autism are those you can tell, whether it be that they're not verbal or just the way they present themselves. And when it comes down to me, when people find out who do not know me, I sometimes get an argument. Recently, with a friend of a friend, I brought it up and they had mentioned, they basically looked at me cross-eyed, very confused and baffled, but at the same time a little frustrated at me for me calling myself autistic, and said, no, you're not. I know, or people, I've seen people who are autistic. I go, well, there's a spectrum. So there's, and I tried to, I said, think of a ruler, and you got 1 through 12, and there's somebody in each point, you can be, on the highest point of autism, which typically are more visible, and then down the spectrum to the lowest, which is more high functioning, like myself. And sometimes you get those people who just don't understand and hopefully don't want to argue with you, and maybe even want to understand it a little bit more, and they ask questions. And then there's those who are very interested in just arguing their point because they're one-minded and they don't want to create an open mind. And I receive that quite often, and it's unfortunate because it's just something that sometimes gets in the way when I am trying to educate, those who don't know or don't have enough knowledge on ASD. So someone who is diagnosed with high-functioning autism, or HFA, basically is a term applied for people with autism, but do not have an intellectual disability, if that makes any sense to you guys. And so most of us are able to live our lives as everyone else does. We're able to keep a job, hold a conversation, and and then there's a spectrum with that too. You never know. And each and every person is different with their diagnosis. A lot of people with the intellectual disability have an IQ of 70 or less. People with high functioning autism, they express and interact very differently than some. Those with HFA recognize emotion and social cues and expression easier than those who have autism spectrum disorder, which technically we do have, but and also high functioning isn't really a diagnosis. It's just an easier way to describe somebody that's on complete opposite sides of the spectrum. And in the end, we are still one and the same person, so we still have issues with social cues and expression, and sometimes it's hard for us to recognize that, but it's easier for us to do so. So people also bring up Asperger's, and I always mention that Asperger's is also autism, but Asperger's and high functioning autism is just another way to describe the difference between those, as well as just ASD. So Asperger's and high functioning autism are considered more mild than other levels of disabilities. And so when people people bring up that they have Asperger's, it's just an older name, and now people say high function autism, which just means that they're more high functioning and they're able to live their life fairly independent, but do have issues like those who have more extreme autism. And that's where it kind of comes into with what are symptoms and what are my symptoms. So there's a complete wide range of symptoms that people get when they think or they do obviously have ASD. And those symptoms can be difficulty with social cues or interaction, holding a conversation, having eye contact, which by the way is a huge one for me. There is obsessive interests, which is basically what I was mentioning in obsessive behavior, such as OCD, touching things, saying things, repetitive movement with the arms or body. There's then speech impediment and just the way they present themselves. A lot of children with ASD have issues with paying attention. A lot of children and adults who have ASD also have ADHD and ADD. So that is also something that you will find out when you are diagnosed in your tests. It's kind of all in one test, and you'll find out if you have all these other diagnoses, which also to me are symptoms of ASD. And that is also included for those with high functioning autism or Asperger's. Now for me, my issues that I may forget many is I don't like to be touched. I only like being touched if I'm dating somebody and maybe my mother, but I don't give hugs to family. I don't like being touched by friends. When they see me, they'll give me a hug and I'm fine with it because I'm used to it, but I don't hug back. I typically kind of just roll. I don't do eye contact. I'm not sure if I just said that. I typically will go into a store, go to the cashier, and look down, and if she's like, oh, how's your day going? I look down and say, yeah, I'm doing good. How was your day? I don't really look up. I'll try to quickly look up, but that's when I've noticed that I was always looking down. So a lot of people argue, oh, I don't like to be touched either. That's not autism. And I go, there's a different level, and yes, it is. But no, you are correct at the same time that other people without autism don't like to be touched. So, there's definitely a gray area, and that's where the testing comes into play. I don't do I love yous to anybody. I don't have emotions like a lot of people do. So if a family member dies, the chance of me crying are pretty much zero. I've thought about it. I don't have emotion that way, and I never really realized why. If someone says I love you to me, I typically ignore it or say you too, or I'll say you and then hang up thinking that they heard the two because I just don't feel comfortable. I get anxiety when I'm around a lot of people, but I'm also fine being around a lot of people. It just depends on the situation there is. My IQ is lower than 70, and let's just say it's lower than 40. I look like I have a better IQ, not saying I'm a smart ass, but I don't have an IQ. I definitely am on the lower IQ and even lower than normal. So I feel like my IQ is as low as somebody with ASD, but everything else is more high functioning. So it's a little complicated. So I don't like change. I have meltdowns. If I have plans, I need it at a certain time, and then if for some reason my friend is 10 minutes late, I'm mad and I cry and I bitch and moan, and I can't stop myself for something that's so easy. If something's touched and moved, I go into a meltdown as well. There are just so many different levels of what my symptoms are. I'm unaware of others' emotions, and I'm also very blunt. So those are definitely two other symptoms that people with autism have a lot of time, and I definitely do. And yes, it can be just a personality trait, but this is my personality, but that's more of extreme. So I say things without really thinking about it, and if I do think about it, because I have tried to train myself to make sure to think before I say, I still say it, not knowing it's going to hurt the person because I don't know that it is. So me thinking about it doesn't change how my brain thinks. And so I have issues with trying to know what I should say and what I should not say. If I say things that are harsh, I typically don't know that they're harsh. I don't know that it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. I mean, some of the time I can. I'm not saying it's completely like that. It's definitely not. Like, I know if I tell someone they're ugly, that would hurt them. But there are certain things that I guess would hurt somebody that I just don't notice, and then I think about it, and I have people say, why would you say that? That's going to ruin their day, or that's going to break their heart, or they're not supposed to know that. I step back and rethink what I did, and still not comprehend what I did wrong. There are so many symptoms that I have, and to be completely honest, I honestly can't really remember all of them. I mean, there is an abundance amount of symptoms that I personally have that others don't have, or that we do share with ASD or high functioning autism. When I have my meltdowns, I don't really handle them. I just wait until they pass. I think the older I get, the more I'm able to handle them, and typically just like stress, the best way I cope with stress or meltdowns is I watch TV. I have done some other meltdowns, like I threw my phone. I've broken so many phones because I threw it. I mean, I screamed. Imagine what you see in the movies or in real life, children like 4, 5, 6-year-olds, and they're in the middle of the aisle at Target or Walmart, and because they didn't get the candy, they start screaming, and not just screaming, they're on the ground and they're wailing the arms and legs, and the mom is trying to get them up, she's pulling them, dragging them. That's how I've been. I have a video up, and I can't find, I wouldn't be able to find it. I don't even know what it's under, the name or anything, but I do have one. So if you guys are following me and you guys are going through it, you may have seen it. I haven't done that since I moved here 2.5 years ago. So now when I get my meltdowns, they're very minimal, and it's because I have learned to train myself not to act a certain way. I don't know how, but I've just learned to do so. I'm not medicated. I don't go to therapy, which, by the way, that's the only treatments. There's like 1 or 2 medications out there and a lot of therapy. And typically you get diagnosed when you're a kid, so by the time you're older, you learn to control it. Thankfully, I'm a high-functioning autistic, so it didn't really play a huge part of my life. And the only difference now is that now I have the diagnosis, which gives me some answers. But I've learned to control certain things, and the older I get, the more I'm realizing, okay, that's definitely autism. Let me correct it somehow, because I don't want to go to therapy. I'm old enough to figure out how to correct things as best as I can, but not to cure it, because it's not really curable. So, yeah, so that's basically it. TV is the way I help my meltdowns, and I've just learned to control my symptoms as best as I can. That's all I have for you guys. If you guys have any questions, just comment below. I will say this right here now. By the way, I am very blunt, as I've always been, but if I receive anything of hate with this diagnosis with me, I will see within the first few words what you're trying to do, and I will be deleting it. And with that, I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!